Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as the resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 33, Young People May Be Encouraged, and will end on page 35 of What Is He Thinking? And our study portion tonight will start on page 35. Our first example is a friend, and end on page 37, Be Anything Else. And do we have any announcements? I have one, maybe two. Well, let's go with two. Next week, next Wednesday is Christmas Eve, and we do have two usual meetings in this room, a women's meeting at 6:30 and a big book study at 9. Both meetings will still be happening. We may change the formats up a little bit depending on who's in attendance and who's there to run the meeting. But we will still be having in the meetings, and we often open the room on holidays, which would be New Year's or Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, just so that we can hang out together if anybody needs to, because, holidays can be hard. And whether we're visiting with families or whether we're by ourselves, sometimes we just need somebody to touch base with. And our other announcement for anybody, but especially for our home group members, is we will have a group conscience on Monday the 12th at 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central Time, etc. and so forth, adjusted to your own time zone. And that will be a Monday night. Anyone who attends this group or is interested in how this group runs is welcome to attend, but only home group members of record will be eligible for voting. And Lisa?
Thank you, Trish.
You're
Good
welcome.
evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Lisa. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our big book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's fog-like prayer.
And I'm an alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you're unmuted and sharing, as not to distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. Friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's chair. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
And from the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture, breathe in God, and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. And let's bring in those cute little monks.
And for those of you who would like to join me in the fog light prayer, God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Jim.
Good evening, fellow travelers. My name is Jim F., and I am your recovered alcoholic secretary. And I've asked a good friend, Terry, to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Terry.
Hi everybody, I'm Terry, aka Pickle Chips. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a complex to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23 from the Big Book. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time? Any first-timers tonight?
We've got a couple of them tonight. Welcome, everybody. I think we've got TJ, Joanne.
Welcome one and all. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Welcome, everyone. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
God willing, tomorrow I will have 2 years.
Yay.
Hey, Seashell Pickle. Woo!
Come back next
Right
week
on.
for your chip.
Wow.
If you should
Oh, hold on.
Absolutely.
Frank's hand is up. Frank, are you celebrating?
Yes, I am. I'm Frank, grateful recovering alcoholic. I celebrated 23 months yesterday on the 15th of December.
Wonderful.
Way to go, Frank. Right on.
We will get that 2-year chip for you next month. Congratulations.
Anybody else celebrating a milestone? Alrighty. And if you should require a big book of your own, we have a large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. From chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking, for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 10. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 11. Please refer to page 562 of our book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And come on in, Alyssa.
Thank you, Trish. My name is Alyssa, and I am a recovered alcoholic. I'm going to screen share the Traditions Illustrated. This week we are on Tradition 11, which states our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And on page 562 of our Big Book, well, actually 564, I'm going to read the long form. Our relations with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. We think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our names and pictures as AA members ought not to be broadcast, filmed, or publicly printed. Our public relations should be guided by the principle of attraction rather than promotion. There is never a need to praise ourselves. We feel it better to let our friends recommend us. So, as this gives us, it says, ours is not a secret society. We carry the message anywhere we can. But we must ever be aware that self-appointed messiahs speaking for AA throughout public media can do us great damage. Of course, yes, that image says it all. Alcoholics who have recovered through our program are themselves the strongest attraction that AA has. When people are asked what led them to seek AA help, the answer given most often is an AA member. Their chances would have been slim if all of us had remained completely in hiding, but many of us have chosen to tell our friends, neighbors, employers, co-workers, doctors, or spiritual advisors that we are in AA, and when we do so, we are not breaking our anonymity in the meaning of this tradition. Suppose a sick alcoholic never has the good fortune to meet an AA. How is such a person going to find us? The search will be difficult if the local group thinks it should be anonymous too. The tradition is talking about personal anonymity, remember? Alcoholics will not be attracted to AA if they don't know that it exists, or that if they have distorted, unfavorable impressions of it, its members, or its program. Giving the general public an accurate picture of AA is the chief job of our public information committees. In addition, they often carry the message to certain groups, from police officers to personal directors, whose work includes contact with active alcoholics. This one is longer, so it says, how to be anonymous on television. Information about AA is being offered to the public through all the communications media, in print and over the air. On radio, it's easy to guard members' anonymity, of course, but TV, not in wide use when the traditions were written, is another matter. According to a conference opinion, members are breaking their anonymity when they are identified on TV as AAs and their faces are shown, whether or not their names are given. And yet this medium, with its vast audiences, can be ignored. Different techniques have been employed to preserve anonymity on TV. Mask, screens, backlighting that shows AAs only as silhouettes, camera angles showing them only from the back, the shadow method, diagrammed here is simple, relaxed, and appropriate. For we are not selling personalities. We are explaining AA. Personal anonymity breaks in public media, not only personal anonymity in the public media not only may discourage timid prospects, they may threaten the anonymity breaker's own sobriety by violating the spirit of the AA program and traditions. So next week we will visit tradition 12.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you, Alyssa. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is think through the drink. And Billy, can you come in and tell us what it says?
Yes.
From the foreword to the first edition, page XIII.
Yes, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body.
Thank you, Billy. As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight we're going to start our recap on page 33, which will be read tonight by Larry. And that will be followed by our study portion, which will be read by John.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back on our study portion that was read by John. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experience with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with a sponsor, please do not be offended if we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practicing of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And before we jump into our study, let's see how we got here. We didn't just randomly open the page tonight, or the book tonight, to page 35 and say, hey, let's read this. This meeting started in January of 2020, and it was an in-person meeting in Tennessee. And then a few months later, like the rest of the world, the meeting shut down for a little bit because we couldn't meet in person because of COVID. But then it came back stronger than ever on Zoom, and we have been a Zoom meeting ever since. And we will always be a Zoom meeting because we have friends and visitors and home group members from East Coast to West Coast and in a couple of other countries as well. But we start our reading using the question and answer format that was written by Joe and Charlie and one of their sponsees, Krusty Cliff, where each page in the book is rewritten like a question and the answer is the corresponding page in the book. And we start on the title page. We read through all the prefaces, the forewords, the doctor's opinion, And then all the pages 1 through 164. And then we visit Appendix 2, a spiritual experience, when the asterisk at the bottom of the page tells us, read Appendix 2. We also study in this same format, Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and then we have 4 weeks that we spend on the traditions, with each tradition, 3 traditions each week. And then our final week of the 96-week study is a standalone study just on Appendix 2. And then we cycle all the way back and we do it again. So this is a 96-week study. We've been a group for 5 years, coming up on 6 years next month. We're in our 4th time of going through the book. And, regardless of how many times I've opened this book and how long I've been coming to this study, I keep finding new things. Maybe because my ears are open and God wants me to hear something a little different this time than last time. So keep coming and keep learning.
Thank you, Trish. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel.
And Larry, could you come in with our recap tonight, please?
I'm Larry, and I am an alcoholic. This is our recap. Young people may be encouraged by this man's experience to think that they can stop, as he did, on their own willpower. We doubt if many of them can do it, because none will really want to stop, and hardly one of them, because of the peculiar mental twist already acquired, will find he can win out. Several of our crowd, men of 30 or less, had been drinking only a few years, but they found themselves as helpless as those who had been drinking 20 years. To be gravely affected, one does not necessarily have to drink a long time, nor take the quantities some of us have. This is particularly true of women. Potential female alcoholics often turn into the real thing and are gone beyond recall in a few years. Certain drinkers who would be greatly insulted if called alcoholics are astonished at their inability to stop. We, who are familiar with the symptoms, see large numbers of potential alcoholics among young people everywhere. But try and get them to see it. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years beyond the point where we could quit on our willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. If he is a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is scant chance of success. In the early years of our drinking, we occasionally remain sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will drink the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. For those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We are assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt that we have plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. How then shall we help other readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that people are that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking?
Thank you, Larry.
John, come in with the study.
All right, here we go. So, of what is he thinking? Well, our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He is a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He's an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in a serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family, for whom he had a deep affection. Yet he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I was once owned. I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich. Also, I had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I'd been going to it for years. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at a table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and poured it in the milk. I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if he only mixed it with milk. Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? You may think this is an
right
extreme case. Was that?
We are stopping there at anything else.
That was it?
That was it. Thank you.
Right, sorry, I thought it was the next paragraph. Cool.
No worries.
Thank you. For our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. Okay, in our batting order is Nancy, Terry, William, and Jim. Okay, Nancy.
Oh, hold on. I start out with a question. Usually we start with a comment. Usually we start with the questions.
I'm sorry.
But I will be coming in with a couple comments throughout, and the first one is, as we study Jim's story, look for similarities between your story and his.
Thank you, Trish. And Nancy, what kind of family did Jim have? 2 sentences.
Oh, can you pick? Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family.
Thank you. And Terry, what had he inherited?
Inherited a lucrative automobile agency.
And William, how was his war record?
He had a commendable war record.
Yeah. And Jim, was he good at his profession?
He is a good salesman.
And back to Nancy, a 3-part question. A, was he likable? B, was he normal or abnormal? C, except for what? 2 sentences.
Everybody likes him. He is an intelligent man, normal so far, as we can see, except for nervous disposition.
Thank you. And Terry, when did he start drinking?
He did no drinking until he was 35.
Thank you. And William, did it take him very long to get in trouble with his drinking?
In a few years, he had become so violent with intoxication that he had to be committed.
And Jim, what happened to him when he left the mental institution?
On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us.
Thank you. And Nancy, what 2 things did the AAs tell him?
We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found.
Thank you. And Terry, what did he do?
He made a beginning.
Thank you. And Trish, coming in with a comment.
What could we assume from this statement to make a beginning?
Thank you. And William, what happened as a result of that effort?
His family was reassembling, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking.
Thank you. And Jim, what did he not do?
All went well for a time. He failed to enlarge his spiritual life.
That's a biggie. Thank you. And Trish?
How do we develop our spiritual life in Alcoholics Anonymous? Have those we have seen relapse failed to enlarge their spiritual lives?
And Nancy, how many times did he wind up drunk?
All went well for a time, but okay, no, that's the one. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession.
Would
And
this
come on in, Trish.
would this be the equivalent of 6 desire chips today in Alcoholics Anonymous?
And Terry, a two-pot. How many times did the recovered alcoholics go to see him? And B, what did the AAs do?
On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened.
Thank you. And William, on what did he agree with the AAs?
He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in serious condition.
Thank you. And Jim, what did he know would happen if he drank again?
He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on.
Thank you. And Nancy, even more important, what else did he know would happen?
Moreover, he would lose his family from whom he had a deep affection.
Thank you. And Terry, yet he did what?
Yet he got drunk again.
Thank you. And William, what did the AAs do?
We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened.
Thank you. And Jim, how was Jim on Tuesday morning?
This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's just such an exciting story. We don't want to stop.
I thought it was a comma.
It's okay. Do you wonder where he was on Monday morning? A lot of alcoholics are bad about Mondays.
Yes. And Nancy, what was the source of his irritation?
I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned.
And Terry, did he speak to his boss?
I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious.
Thank you. And William, what did he decide to do?
I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car.
Thank you. And Jim, a two-part question. A, along the way, what happened? And B, so what did he do?
On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar.
And Nancy, did he stop for a drink?
I had no intention of drinking.
Thank you. And Terry, what did he think he would do?
Just thought I would get a sandwich.
And William, a two-part question. What else did he hope he might find? And B, was this place unfamiliar to him?
Also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which I was familiar with, for I had been going to it for years.
Thank you. And Jim, was he setting himself up for a slip by stopping there?
I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober.
Thank you. And Nancy, what did he do after he sat down?
I sat down at a table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk.
Thank you. And Terry, had the thought of drinking crossed his mind?
Still no thought of drinking.
And William, he apparently was still hungry, so what did he do?
Ordered a sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk.
Thank you. And Jim, what insane thought suddenly crossed his mind?
Suddenly the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach.
Thank you. And Nancy, did he act sanely on the insane thought?
Suddenly, okay, no, can you pass me? Oh no, I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk.
That's one.
Yeah. And William, a two-part. A, what did he sense? And B, what thought preceded his defense to take the first drink?
I vaguely sensed that I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The
Thank
experiment went off.
That's it, honey. That's it.
Okay.
And Jim, so what did he do?
The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk.
That's
Oh
two.
boy. Yeah. And Nancy, and then what did he do?
That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another.
That's three. Did these three drinks produce the allergic reaction, craving for more drinks, that an alcoholic has to alcohol? Let's keep reading and find out.
Thank you. And Terry, where did those three drinks take him?
Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Poor Jim.
Yeah. And William, you get a two-parter. A, what was placed at risk by taking those three drinks? And B, what else was he to experience as a result of this spree?
It was the threat of a commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of the intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always causes one.
Thank you. And Jim, did he know he was an alcoholic?
He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic.
Thank you. And Nancy, what happened to all the reasons he had for not taking the first drink?
Yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk. Oh.
Did the mental obsession precede that first drink?
And William, I believe, what would we or anyone else call this action?
Whatever the price definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity.
Bingo. Thank you. And Jim, what other term would be appropriate?
How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else?
Right? And that was the last question.
I think it was the glass, milk and glass.
Okay, thank you, everybody. You can put your hands down. And if you have experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. Please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. A friendly reminder as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are now open for comment, question, observations, and spiritual experience based on what was just read. Larry?
Yeah, hey, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I look at this and I see, a man that first of all, he owned this establishment, and because of his drinking and because of his extreme alcoholism, he lost it, and he was forced to work for somebody that probably might have worked for him at one time. I don't know, but for whatever reason, he owned business in which now he was a salesman for. And when he got drunk, that he came in and that Tuesday morning, and had words, however unserious they were. I call it a resentment, or a reservation that he had for some time, probably. And of course, for Alcoholics Anonymous, for me, I remember a resentment almost killed me. And in his case, it almost killed him. Resentments is the number one offender for alcoholics. And in his case, it was eating upon him. The thought of working for an establishment he once owned just was eating him up. And it was the underlying thing that probably brought on this insane thought. It usually, because we're always thinking, and our thinking is always stinking, and it brings on insanity in all of our lives as alcoholics. And what happens is never smart. It never turns out good when we are left to our own devices. I have messed up my life so many times as an alcoholic simply because my thinking was overloaded and finally had led to blowing up my life and blowing it up and destroying my family. I had two families completely destroyed, and actually I messed up the third family even after I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, simply because I did not have all of my character defects in check, so anger and resentment eats away at the fabric of our lives until we finally get our spiritual condition in check. And he could not get his spiritual condition in check until he could get his resentments also in check. And I found that to be very, very close to my heart. That's all I've got to got.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks for kicking us off. Hi, John. Come on in.
Thanks. My name is John. I'm an alcoholic. So on the top of page 36, that first paragraph, it's all a setup, leading into suddenly the thought crossed my mind. So what jumped out at me, I think we have all heard the expression restless, irritable, and discontent. So here's his setup. I remember I felt irritated. Okay, so he's already has this irritation, and my former drinking self, I can relate, and then I want escape. So here he is, and to add to his irritation, a few words with the boss. So here's this escape. Now he decides to drive into the country. Okay, so there's already this background that is not good, in my opinion. And The subtle insanity is I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. Okay. So I believe he already, somewhere in the cunning, baffling part of alcoholism, I think he already had intention of drinking, even though he said I had no intention of drinking. He's going to a bar, you know? That's the way I'm looking at it. And then, as part of his irritation, he's pushing himself. Okay, I might find a customer for a car at this place. So now, I feel like this guy is agitated. So, so he's trying to calm himself down. He's hungry, he has a sandwich, glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking, but he's at a bar, for God's sakes, And then, boom, there it is. Suddenly the thought crossed my mind. So, I know, those thoughts jumped out at me. So it's just a clear example to me of just the sheer insanity of this disease. So, enough out of me.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Lisa?
Hi, everybody. Oh, yeah, that thought, huh? Pure insanity. The big lie. How many times, upteen times, that I thought it was going to be different. Drinking on a full stomach, drinking certain things, drinking at different times. The biggie, though, was, going someplace to eat with a bar. I had to stop doing that. Not that it stopped me, but I took that out of the equation. Those feelings, restless, irritable, discontent. And many times I didn't even think I was, because I lived that way. Those were constant feelings. I kind of lived in a panic state. So I just have a thought. I'd go by, just see a bar or a liquor store. That was it. And there would also times where, I thought I was in a decent mood. It was just the holiday season, or the beach season, or the first time I lit my fireplace. It didn't matter. I wanted to drink. I was thinking, I think it was like a year and a half ago, I was up the beach and someone aggravated me. And if I didn't pick up that phone, which I did, and I immediately felt better, and there was no way I was drinking after that. But if I didn't pick up that phone, I think I would have drank that day. But yeah, the craziness, those thoughts, and the disease. It's my built-in forgetter. Yeah, that it's going to be different, and I have decades of proof that it wasn't. And maybe one or two times that I may have had one or two because I had to. Whether it was I was with my parents, that was a biggie with me. I wouldn't drink. They didn't like me drinking. It upset them too much. But the one or two things, that's what I'd hold on to. That's what my disease would hold on to. I did it 30 years ago. I had to. Instead of the decades of times where I couldn't stop. And it's just that that craziness. It's nothing short of insanity. Just craziness. But yeah, I can really relate to this. And I don't have to do that today. You know, working this program and reading, and doing this study and doing this work. You know, I'm able to change those patterns, that way of thinking, that perspective. You know, I've been through some things this past year, a couple things, and, you know, I look back and I'm just amazed that I didn't think of drinking more. But, you know, I was reading this morning, pages 82 to 88, you know, God removed that. You know, I don't go to those places anymore. I go to God. I go to my sponsor. God is always available. He's removed it. It's not a constant thought or where I go when there's any type of issue anymore. I don't have to go to those places, and I'm just so very grateful. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Back to you, Lisa. Your show to pick on people.
Terry, come on in.
Good evening, my friends. I'm Terry Pickle Chips, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. I always, this one always reminds me of being, I was probably just a few months sober when a bunch of us AA girls went to a bar to watch one of our fellow meeting people in a band. And let me tell you, I obsessed about it all the way there. I obsessed about it while I was sitting there. I was so uncomfortable. And I didn't hear the music because I was staring at somebody sitting next to me, not in our group, of course, but a man that was drinking a beer. And I watched him, and I watched him take sips, and I became so focused on whether he was going to finish it, and I wonder how cold it is. Yeah, so I left, and you know, I just politely told my friends I just couldn't. I think we even came in the same car, so I just went outside and probably smoked a pack of cigarettes. Because that was kind of my substitute. But you know, it was years before I ever went in another bar because of that. So that was a very helpful little experiment, you know, to see how I would do. Today, with 28 years sober, I do serve beer and cocktails. And what I find to be so incredible is that I can't smell it. It's like that part of my brain has shut off. So I can't smell what I'm serving, even if it's in hot chocolate or something, because we're doing all this wintry drink stuff right now. And people will often ask me, what does it taste like? And I say, I don't know. I don't drink anymore. And it usually starts a conversation, usually with people that want to know how I did it or why I did it. So I feel in some ways, one gal even hung around for quite a while and just was asking me a lot of questions. So I felt like I planted that seed, even unintentionally, but I had cut her off. I wouldn't serve her anymore, but she was interested. So I don't go to places just to hang out, bars or anything like that, just to hang out and listen to music. Um, I don't put myself in that situation, even though it's been a lot of years, but I could serve it and I'm fine. So who knows? Who knows why God wired me that way? But I just think it's fascinating. I don't stick my nose up to it to smell it, but when I'm serving, I can't smell it. So I feel I'm very, very blessed. So anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Terry. And Frank, come on in.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for this meeting. It's good to be here. The reading I related to, the part that stuck out for me was, going to the bar and just to have a sandwich. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself how many times I've been in that situation. And I think that there were times where I went into facilities knowing that I had the option with the intention not to drink. And there were other times where I lied to myself and I went into the facility and told myself I was not going to drink, but ended up drinking. And then I go a little bit even further and try to remember the times that I tried explaining myself to non-alcoholics. For me, alcoholism. It's in my mind, it's a spiritual and emotional, mental illness, and it's not just a drinking problem. My inner perspective, it changed a long time ago. And that was when I admitted I was powerless, and that and the hard part for me was that I couldn't manage it, because I really wanted to try to manage this. But I found hope and purpose, and I turned towards my higher power. And when resentment and fear and ego dominate my inside, drinking usually follows, regardless of the situation that I'm in, whether it be I'm hungry or tired or just not in the right mindset. But that's shifting. That's shifted. And, my honesty and acceptance of this and my humility, it's growing inside. And, my sobriety and my level of sobriety is maintained on the outside and inside. And, there's sort of a level of inner accountability that I have now when I pass an establishment that offers alcohol and food. The obsession's gone. It's giggity gone. It's not there anymore. And that's, with thinking about it or not thinking about it. Being able to navigate the waters and feel the splash and the wind is such a gift. And even the lightning sometimes. Such a gift. Thanks for the meeting.
Thanks, Frank. Dragon Pickle, come on in.
Hey, everybody. Dragon Pickle, also known as Billy up here. This is such a great read. I'm so reminded of so many things. My spiritual condition can get out of whack, even at 15, 20, 30, I don't know how many years sober. And it did, because I didn't have a good, strong sponsor whom I was talking to. Things had happened in my life that weren't fun. My mom had died, and I just really didn't realize some of the mental Olympics that were going on in my head, because I'd been sober for, I don't know, probably about 15 years at that point. I owned my own, I had a trailer at a trailer park. The rent was dirt cheap. It was quite affordable. I had my kids, everything was good. But my spiritual condition was garbage. And I didn't realize that I was sabotaging my life, because I didn't have a good sponsor that I was willing to tell the truth to. And it wasn't until I was getting evicted out of the trailer park, couldn't quite take the trailer for a drag with me, but I got evicted because I didn't pay the lot rent for quite a while, because I couldn't pay attention to the details. And I didn't realize the sabotage that I was committing on my own life, on my kids' lives, on everything. And so not only did we get evicted, but I didn't get any help. I was so ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody. I just said, well, the place was old and we moved. Because I didn't have a strong sponsor who was making me do step work on the stuff on the chaos I was creating. You know, somewhere in our literature it says our adventures before and after we got sober. And I can raise my hand to that one now. I can tell the truth. I could say, yeah, I wasn't paying attention to the details, and I chaosed my own world right out of my own home. And then 6 or 8 months later, my car was repoed because I wasn't paying for the car. I was paying the rent finally because I was in a new place, but I hadn't done the spiritual work yet. So we moved too many times in about 2 to 3 years. And I hit the wall. I knew it was me. I had finally come to terms with it being me. I was talking with my doctor, and we discovered that maybe after my mom died, we'd upped my antidepressant a little too much. And he explained a little known side effect of too much antidepressant in your body gives you the I don't cares. I can't swear, so not in this room. But, you know, insert your own version of I don't bleep at all. And when I told him about, because he wasn't going to change the dosage without an honest conversation. And so he knew me. He'd been my doctor for 20 years or so. He knew me. And so we talked, and I told him, yeah, we've been evicted. My car's been repoed. I bought a $600 truck to get me over the hump so that I'd have some transportation. And we didn't change the dose. He told me I had to he knew me this well. He told me I needed a better sponsor. I needed more meetings. And I had to get back into therapy so I could deal with all the pain and suffering of the past 4 to 5 years or so at that point, since my mother had died. All the stuff I was stuffing. And I got a good sponsor. She's still my sponsor to this day. Oops. Called her one day and said, my dad's dying, or he died. She was in Michigan at the time. I knew she was in Michigan. So the next week, it's time for my dad's funeral, and I'm leaving the church, and I look up, and there's my sponsor. She pulled an all-nighter driving from Michigan to be there for me, for my dad's funeral. I trust her. I tell her the truth. She's the first phone call when I found out that the cancer was back. She said, you got through it once, you get through it again. Go to a meeting. So now I go to enough meetings and I talk about what's really burning my toast, as it were. And it's all good. Because I don't have to drink today and I don't have to sabotage my life. Thanks.
Thanks, Billy. Jacqueline.
Hi, group. My name is Jacqueline M., and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And thank you for all the shares. And, when I, excuse me, I've never had a relapse, and I keep coming back. But I kind of see how my friend here, Jim, kind of felt, because here he was a salesman of his own business, and now he was the boss. Now he probably have to talk to one of his subordinate, who is now the boss, and that's a lot of being humiliated. And I kind of reflect over not too long ago, at my job, I was kind of humiliated, and I was irritable. I had I was going through a lot of pain, but it was something that I read for many years, that it became crystal clear. And thank you, God, I had sense enough to call my sponsor. Okay. And just like Jim here, I told my sponsor what I was going through, and I said, I don't have no intention to drink. Now I was upset. I said, I don't have any intentions to drink, And guess what? My sponsor took me to this page and said, Jim didn't have no intentions to drink that day either. Right? Because now, mind you, Jim has been going to this place probably for several years, and like he said, getting a sandwich, looking for a prospect, right? To buy a car, to sell him a car. But all of a sudden now, because of his irritation, he decided, that thought came, and I had to remember that my alcoholism is not doing push-up in nobody's parking lot. It starts and ends with my thinking. It starts and ends with my thinking. And thank you, God, after all these years, that I have enough humility to tell another human being, the exact nature how I feel, because I always thought that conditions were supposed to meet me instead of me meeting conditions. And that's why I drank for so many years prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, because I wanted conditions to meet me instead of me meeting conditions, And this is something I had to do at work. I had to meet conditions where it was. And you talking about a very painful and humiliating phase that I went through, but I stayed close to the fellowship, what we're doing now, sharing with my sponsor. you know. But I like this, and this is nothing but insanity. It talks about insanity. But I like this part here because prior to coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, I had all the intentions. When I got off from work, go straight home, pick up my son, and not to drink. I had all all intentions, but right here it says, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside. Pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that I could drink whiskey if only I mix it with some type of soda or whatever, But the intentions just went out the window, So, thank you, God, that my sponsor took me to this page, made me read it. She said Jim had no intentions to drink that day, even though it says he had a few words with his boss, but nothing serious. Only a few words. But I have to even share those few words when I'm become irritable, restless, and discontented even today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Xavier.
Hey, good evening, Xavier Alcoholic. Grateful to be here, and always grateful for this meeting. What a great topic. I love the first 43 pages in the doctor's opinion are on step one, and the loss of choice. I love how it really conveys this concept of what they talk about in the doctor's opinion about an obsession, like what that actually means. And I like how the book teaches in a lot of parables, so it really simplifies it for me and I can connect. I always liked how Bill in the original 100 did that, and how it's really clever how they put the book together. So, step one, I was having lunch with one of us, another friend of Bill and Bob's today, and we were talking about how it's a lot of AA is counterintuitive. Things like you have to give it away to keep it. And one of my favorite things about the program is I have to give up. And if I'm willing to give up in step one, admit that I'm powerless over alcohol, my life is unmanageable, it's a really, really important step. It won't get me sober, but it's necessary to do the other 11 steps. And I love how it gives the two concepts, loss of control and loss of choice. And if you have one or the other, you might be an alcoholic. I have both. And for me, it makes it a lot easier to do a step one when I realized that alcohol is smarter than me, a lot smarter. If there was an IQ, alcohol's IQ is way higher than mine. And how I learned that is I remember taking Antabuse many years ago, and I thought I found the magic pill, because there's no way I'm going to drink if I'm on Antabuse. And finally, I had a solution so I could stop breaking my mom's heart and upsetting my family. And I remember it was a Wednesday I stopped taking the Antabuse, and that Friday I drank. And I don't remember why I stopped taking the Antabuse. There was no reason. And I had this realization after I went on another bender. My mind had stopped for me. My alcoholism, literally days before, prevented me from taking Antabuse because I likely knew I was going to drink again, which was insane. It was it is way, way, way smarter than I am. And the reason that's important to me is, and this is, I think, where it got interesting for me, or at least it is, hindsight. When I was finally ready to totally give up and be holy smokes, I am literally powerless. This thing is smarter than me physically. I can't drink. I can't control it. And I have no choice mentally because I'm going to drink again. I can tell you all day I'm not going to. I'll pass the lie detector test. I'm going to anyway because that's what history's always shown. When I finally accept that, there's this relief because it means I don't have to try to be the solution anymore, which is amazing. And when I can just finally give up, that's like true power. Because like one of the interesting things I always find about AA is when I realize I'm not the power, then I look for the real power, and I find out that it's, you know, God, a higher power, etc. And I have 11 other steps to help me get there, to that higher power and have that connection. And what I find is when I'm willing to do those other 11 steps to the best of my ability, I have this like spiritual experience slash connection daily. And what happens is, as long as I'm doing these physical things and have a spiritual connection, then one day at a time I don't have to drink as a side effect. And I always loved how that worked. So, long story short, if I'm willing to finally recognize that I give up, that mentally alcohol is way smarter than I am, and I'm going to drink no matter what, left to my own accord. Physically, I've tried a million different ways, and there's no way around it. I'm an alcoholic. And I accept that in my heart of hearts. Then likely I might be desperate enough and have that gift of desperation where I can get on my knees because I don't want to die, and I sure as hell don't want to live without alcohol because it's miserable as well. But I know I'm going to die soon, and I might be willing to try this program, do these other 11 miserable steps, seemingly, which it turns out later on it was pretty awesome to do. Yeah, so I'm always grateful for this program. And lastly, like, I think the longer I'm in, the more I can really appreciate the big book and appreciate how clever and wise, you know, the original authors were, and how this book really reaches out and touches people. And I absolutely love the way it teaches the parables and examples. So that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Xavier. Toe tapping.
Hi, Seashell. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And William, put your hand back up. You know, a lot of the reading tonight and a lot of the comments were on that mental obsession. And, you know, that very first comment before we even started the questions, as we study Jim's story, look for similarities between your stories and his. And then it talks about not enlarging our spiritual life and that obsession. And as he was telling his story, you know, I've got to wonder, and you know, unanswerable questions. But if he's saying he had words with the boss, but nothing serious, how often do I say I had words with somebody, but it didn't mean anything? But I'm still talking about it, so it must have meant something.
Yeah.
So was he carrying a resentment at that point when he went for lunch? And then he got hungry. And what really jumped out at me is on the way I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. He could have just said, I stopped to eat. But he designated, I stopped at a place and they have a bar. I don't know if he was setting himself up. I don't know if, like Xavier just said, his brain was thinking unconsciously before he even realized consciously that he was going to be hitting that bar. But I know, as it said in the beginning, look for similarities. There were plenty of times that I would continue to visit places I knew weren't safe for me, just so that just in case I have a bad day, I'm here and I can take a drink. I could pick up a cigarette. I could fight with somebody. There'll be somebody there I could pick a fight with. Something. Always verbally. I was not a badass. I know that. But, you know, was he setting himself up? I don't know. But, you know, I did that all the time. And then to have that insane thought, if I put whiskey in my milk, it's not going to bother me. I'm taking the whiskey on a full stomach. It's not going to bother me. How many times do we lie to ourselves? How many times did I lie to me about what I was drinking, how much I was drinking, when I was drinking, and it's okay to do it because ... and fill in those blanks. I could always justify picking up that drink and okay. I could always justify hanging out at a place where they serve alcohol as okay. And the book tells us somewhere else, don't shy away from it if it means we can carry the message to somebody. Don't shy away from it if it means if I have a reason for being there. If I have friends going and I want to hang out with them, if there's a wedding, if I knew somebody in the band and they're playing because I used to work with a coworker and he was in a blues band and we would follow him all over like not junkies, like roadies. We would follow him all over the area. Some of them knew I didn't drink, so I was the designated driver, and frankly, I was okay with that. But there were days that I knew I was putting myself in that position, and if I hadn't committed to being the designated driver, I don't know if I would have picked up, because mentally I certainly was in a case where I could have. But did the mental obsession precede that first drink? He'd already had words with the boss. He's already talking about it's a place he used to own. Did he sell it to a family member so that it wouldn't be lost totally? Who knows? There's a lot of unanswered questions there, but there's things I could speculate on. I used to own this. I shouldn't have to work here. I had words with the boss, and I'm still carrying that. I'm going to stop at this place where I can get a sandwich, and they happen to have a bar, too. I'm sure there were places on that road he could have stopped that didn't have a bar, but he had to throw that sentence into his story. So was he thinking about it? Because I know when I used to find myself in that state of I'm mad at somebody, I'm hungry, I didn't get my own way, I would search out the place where I could just happen to be at that bar and just happen to order something. Knowing full well it was a setup. I did it on purpose. And mental obsession, absolutely. And was I willing to say that or look at that at the time? Absolutely not. But the longer I'm in the program, the more I find myself in this book, the more I can recognize, yeah, that was me. I would have searched out that place. And with that, I am going to stop. So, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Trish. William, come on in.
Thank you. My name is William Alcoholic. Thank you so much, Trish. That's why I lowered my hand, because I knew you were going to say everything that I was thinking. And definitely that part that you open up with, that you say that he looked for the similarities and stuff like that, And as I listened to Jim's story, in the beginning, his spirituality wasn't there, his resentment was working on him, because here he is. See, most alcoholics, once we go through the ringer and we get it, we find some gratitude, for being there. Now he's talking about, I'm working for a guy that I used to own, business that I used to own, and the thing about it that hit me, and I've been through a lot of those. It was the glass. I go in the bar, so I'm going to have club soda, cranberry juice, and somebody will say, they call him Sandman. What's Sandman drinking? And the bartender would say, he drinking orange juice. They said, give him a drink on him. So that mental twist inside of my head that had no spiritual connection said, drink it, without even thought, like he said, without even thought. There go your job, there go your family, there go everything for that first drink, But as he was there, and you look back, and we've been taught some things to do to enlarge our spirituality, pray, meditate, or call another recovering alcoholic, and none of that happened. None of that happened. He went on out there, and probably he was running away from the boss. I'm gonna go out in the country, get away from this guy today, because I can't stand him. I'm gonna go out in the country and look for somebody to sell a car to and stuff. And definitely that symbol, that glass, without whiskey, with that type of spiritual condition, it sounds good. And definitely I had a lot of those. Mix it with this, a chain of drinks and stuff like that. But the thing about it, now that I'm sober today and for a few 24s, I could go to any place, and Bill talks about that. It's Greenland, Iceland. If your spiritual condition not ready, you go to Greenland, Iceland, and Eskimo may come up with a bottle and you'll drink it. You know what I mean? So I have things what I do, you know, and I do it with a purpose, you know, and I try to keep my spiritual up by prayer, meditation, and making leaders and talking to other alcoholics, you know. So definitely none of that was in his in that moment, that time, whenever he was in that he did any of those things. So thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Brian, come on in.
Hello, how's everyone doing tonight? You know, like this chapter really resonates with me. And a lot of what, you know, people said tonight as well, you know, because that was definitely me 100%. You know, maybe it's something that, you know, I guess we all tend to go through, but it really brought back those memories of, you know, me switching from Jack when I started getting blackouts to Makers, you know, trying different things. You know, I used to manage GNC stores. And so I knew the supplements very well. And one day I had the bright idea. I was like, wait a second. Ginger root, the capsules, they stop nausea. People would use them when they would get seasick and they're going ships. So I'm like, so what if I take one of those and go out drinking? Then I can keep drinking because I won't get nauseous. And it worked. You know, I didn't get nauseous. But, you know, there I was drinking all night, you know, and I found this solution so I could keep drinking and not get sick. And, you know, it was just definitely this cycle of trying different things. And, you know, even when I started down my journey to quit drinking, you know, I was still constantly trying to rationalize and maybe every 2 weeks, you know, once a week, only on Fridays, you know, all sorts of things. And as someone else said, like, none of it worked. You know, none of it worked. It always led back to the same situation. It would creep up on me and, you know, boom, before I knew it, I'm drinking. Maybe I wasn't drinking as much throughout the week, but I would be out now all night. I mean, you know, so just found a different way to be at its worst, you know. And so the other day I reconnected with a guy I used to work with, and, you know, the last time I saw him a year ago, he had told me that he had started on his AA journey. And, you know, we kind of lost touch, and we just caught up, and now he just got separated from his wife. You know, and I noticed he said, he's like, well, you know, I'm just trying to drink every now and again, every couple months. And, you know, it hit me. I'm like, well, are you still in AA? And he was like, no, that was too much of a cult. And, you know, so I didn't try to push him or, you know, but I just said, you know, I tried that too, the, you know, rationalization, trying to change the way I drink, trying to manage it, but it didn't really work out for me, you know, and you know, I'm just trying to be there for him. You know, I know he's going through some stuff. I know, you know, now he's separated from his wife. He doesn't have that, you know, thing in the back of his mind that might help him not drink. You know, he doesn't have his child there, you know, 24/7 to go home to. You know, but I also understand that, you know, he's going to have to hit his bottom and he's going to have to decide for himself, you know, that he's ready to give it up for good. I mean, I don't think right now he's in a bad place where he's drinking heavily, and I hope it doesn't happen. You know, I really do. But you know, just tonight's conversation, whatnot, just really made me think of my own rationalizations, and then just recently how he was trying to manage his drinking, and like, oh well, you know, I just drink every couple months. But now he's on his own, so now what's to keep that bottle from coming into his apartment or those beers? And you know, every couple months turns to every couple weeks, and then every few days, and then it's every day. You know. So just, you know, hoping all the best for him. But I just want to say thank you and wish everyone a happy holidays.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Like we had a meeting. Shall I close out, Trish?
Well, I will do the reading and then I'll pass it on to you to pray us out. So from page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you, Trish. And thank you, everybody. It was a great meeting. And we can't hold hands like an in-person meeting. So our version is we hold our hands up in the screen. And we'll close with a moment of silence for the alcoholic who's still suffering. Our Father, who art in heaven, God will be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks
for the meeting, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Joanne B.
Thank you. Have a good night. Good night.